My daughter-in-law thought she could feed me poison and get away with it. She thought I was disposable, but the only thing that expired was her plan. I'm Eleanor Hartwell, 70 years old, and the moment I felt that first wave of nausea roll through my stomach, I knew something was terribly wrong. The dining room tilted sideways. My fork clattered against the plate. That sound seemed to echo from miles away. Veronica, my daughter-in-law, looked up from her phone with mild irritation, not concern. "Eleanor, are you all right?" I tried to answer, but my tongue felt thick and foreign in my mouth. The chicken I'd just swallowed sat in my stomach like a stone, and everything in the room started to blur at the edges. I gripped the table, but my fingers wouldn't cooperate. They slipped off the smooth wood like I was wearing silk gloves. Then the floor came up to meet my face. The cold tile against my cheek was the only thing that felt real. Everything else, the chair crashing beside me, Veronica's gasp, the overhead light spinning above, seemed to be happening to someone else. My body had stopped taking orders from my brain. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, but I could hear everything with startling clarity. "Oh my God," Veronica said, but her voice carried no real panic. There was something else in it, something calculating. I heard her heels clicking across the tile as she walked, not ran, to where I lay crumpled on the floor. She nudged my shoulder with her foot. Testing. "Eleanor, can you hear me?" I tried to respond, but nothing came out except a low moan. My vision was darkening around the edges like someone was slowly closing a curtain. The nausea intensified, and I tasted bile mixed with that horrible metallic tang. Finally, I heard her pull out her phone, but she didn't dial right away. There was a pause, maybe 5 seconds, maybe 10, where she just stood there looking down at me. I could smell her perfume, that expensive Chanel she wore like armor. It made my stomach turn even more. "911, what's your emergency?" Veronica's voice transformed. Suddenly she was frantic, breathless, the picture of a concerned caretaker. "My mother-in-law collapsed. She just fell during dinner. Please hurry, I don't know what's wrong." The dispatcher's tinny voice asked questions. Veronica answered with perfect distress, giving our address, describing my symptoms. She even managed to produce what sounded like genuine tears. If I hadn't been dying on her kitchen floor, I might have applauded the performance. "They're on their way," she said, kneeling beside me. Her hand touched my forehead, and it took everything in me not to flinch. "Just hold on, Eleanor. Help is coming." But her touch wasn't gentle. It was perfunctory, like someone checking if a package had arrived. The minutes crawled by. I lay there trapped in my own body, feeling the cold seep from the floor into my bones. My breathing was shallow, labored. Each inhale brought that chemical smell from the tile grout and the lingering odor of whatever had been in that chicken. Something sour, something wrong. The doorbell rang. Heavy footsteps, voices. "Paramedics, where is she?" Two men in navy blue uniforms appeared in my shrinking field of vision. One dropped to his knees beside me, and I felt the snap of latex gloves near my ear. His hands were practiced, professional, checking my pulse at my wrist and neck. "Ma'am, can you hear me? If you can hear me, squeeze my hand." I tried. God, I tried, but my fingers wouldn't respond. Unresponsive but breathing. Pulses weak and thready. Pupils responsive but sluggish. He looked up at Veronica. "What happened? What did she eat?" "We had dinner, chicken, rice, salad, same thing I ate." Veronica's voice quavered perfectly. "Any known allergies? Medical conditions? Is she on any medications?" "High blood pressure medication, that's all. She's generally healthy for her age." The second paramedic was pulling equipment from his bag. I felt something clip onto my finger, a pulse oximeter. Someone pressed a blood pressure cuff around my arm. "How long has she been living with you?" 8 months, since my father-in-law passed." Veronica paused, and I heard her step closer to the paramedic, her voice dropping. Can I be honest with you?" This was it. This was the moment I'd remember for the rest of my life, however long that turned out to be. "Of course, ma'am." Her voice became a stage whisper, intimate and confidential. "She's been eating expired food for months. I've been trying to save money. We're not exactly wealthy, and she doesn't contribute much. She's just old and dramatic. This is probably just for attention." There was a pause, then even quieter. "At her age, does it really matter?" The words hit me harder than the collapse had. My own daughter-in-law. The woman my son Michael had married 7 years ago. The woman I'd welcomed into our family, defended to friends who'd had reservations, helped financially when they needed a down payment on their first house. She'd been poisoning me, slowly, deliberately, and she'd just told this paramedic she didn't care if I died. Ma'am, if she's been eating contaminated food, that's a serious issue, the paramedic said, his voice stiffening with professional concern. Oh, I know, I've tried to stop her, but she gets into things. You know how elderly people can be. Veronica's voice shifted back to worry. Will she be okay? I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab that paramedic's arm and tell him the truth, that I didn't get into anything, that every meal I'd eaten for months had been served to me by her, that I'd trusted her completely. But my voice was gone. My body was a prison. We need to transport her immediately. Possible food poisoning, possible stroke. We'll know more at the hospital. They lifted me onto a gurney. The ceiling lights passed overhead in a nauseating sequence. The ambulance siren started up, and I felt the vehicle lurch into motion. Through my half-closed eyes, I saw Veronica standing in the doorway, backlit by the porch light. She wasn't crying anymore. She was checking her phone. As the ambulance turned the corner, consciousness began slipping away from me like water through cupped hands. But one thought remained crystal clear. I'd moved in with my son and his wife 8 months ago after my husband Thomas died. I thought they'd taken me in out of love. I was so wrong. But there was something Veronica didn't know. Something my dear Thomas had left behind that would change everything. If I survived this, she was going to learn exactly who she'd tried to kill. Thomas died on a Tuesday morning in April, exactly 10 months before Veronica would poison me for the last time. He'd been making coffee, our routine for 45 years, when the massive stroke took him. I found him on the kitchen floor with his hand still reaching toward the cabinet where we kept the sugar. His last conscious act had been making my coffee the way I liked it. 2 sugars, splash of cream. The paramedics said he was likely gone before he hit the ground. They meant it as comfort. For weeks after the funeral, I wandered through our house like a ghost haunting her own life. The coffee maker sat unused. The bed felt enormous and cold. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. out of habit, then remember there was no reason to anymore. Our home, a modest 3-bedroom we'd paid off 15 years earlier, became a museum of memories I couldn't bear to look at, but couldn't bear to leave. That's when Michael started calling more frequently. Mom, you can't live alone anymore. It's not safe. What if something happens to you? At first, I resisted. I had my routines, my independence, my memories embedded in every wall. But Michael was persistent, and I was so tired. Tired of cooking for one. Tired of the silence. Tired of being strong. Come stay with us, he said during one visit, taking my hands in his. Just for a while, until you get back on your feet. Veronica had nodded enthusiastically, her smile warm and wide. We have plenty of room, Eleanor. You're family. Michael worries about you constantly. I should have questioned why my son worried but never visited for longer than an hour. I should have wondered why Veronica's smile never quite reached her eyes. But grief had made me stupid and grateful. I rented out my house, couldn't bear to sell it outright, and moved into their guest bedroom with 2 suitcases and a box of Thomas's things I couldn't leave behind. The first 2 weeks felt like salvation. Veronica cooked full meals and set a place for me at their dining table. She asked about my day, brought me tea in the evenings, even suggested we go shopping together. I started to think I'd misjudged her all those years. Maybe she really did care. By the 2nd month, the portions on my plate had shrunk, small enough that I noticed but not enough to comment on without seeming ungrateful. Dinner became leftovers more often. Tuesday's chicken reheated on Thursday, weekend casserole stretched to Wednesday. You don't need as many calories at your age, Mom, Veronica said when I mentioned feeling hungry. I'm actually helping you stay healthy. Month 3 brought the first truly spoiled meal, yogurt that tasted sharp and fermented. When I checked the date, it had expired 92 days earlier. Oh my God, I must have grabbed the wrong one from the garage fridge. Veronica had laughed, hand to her chest. You know how busy I am. I'll be more careful. But it kept happening. Milk that smelled sour, bread with spots of green-blue mold, discovered only after the first bite, lunch meat that had a rainbow sheen on its surface. By month 5, I wasn't eating at the table anymore. Veronica brought meals to my room on a tray, usually while Michael was at work. She'd started buying me my own groceries, she said, storing them in a mini fridge she'd installed in my bedroom for convenience. That mini fridge became my prison. Everything in it was expired or close to it. When I tried to use the main kitchen, Veronica would materialize with that tight smile. "I've got it handled, Mom. You just rest." Michael was never home to see any of it. His software job demanded long hours, or so he said. Evenings when he did return, he'd eat dinner with Veronica in the dining room while I stayed in my room. If I emerged to join them, the conversation would die, replaced by polite questions that felt like obligations. "How are you feeling, Mom?" "Fine," I'd say, because what else could I say? That his wife was isolating me? That I felt like a prisoner in their home? Once I tried. "Michael, I've been thinking I might go back to my house." "Mom, Veronica is doing her best," he'd interrupted, not even looking up from his phone. "You're so lucky she agreed to this. Do you know how many women would refuse to take in their mother-in-law?" Through the wall that night, I heard them arguing. "How long is she going to be here?" Veronica's voice sharp and clear. Michael's response was muffled, defensive. "I didn't sign up to be a full-time caretaker for your mother, Michael. This was supposed to be temporary." The worst part was how she'd taken over my finances. It happened so gradually I barely noticed. First, she'd offered to help with my bills. "Let me handle this, Mom. You just rest and enjoy retirement." Then my credit cards and checkbook went into her drawer, for safekeeping. My pension check started depositing into a joint account she'd set up for household expenses. I'd become completely dependent on her for everything: food, money, even basic dignity. I thought about Veronica and Michael's wedding 7 years ago, how I'd welcomed her with open arms. I'd defended her to my sister who'd whispered concerns about her materialism, her coldness. "She's just young and stressed," I'd insisted. "She'll warm up." I trusted her with my life, literally. And now, as I lay in that hospital bed with tubes in my arms and monitors beeping around me, I realized the truth I'd been too proud or too stupid to see. Veronica hadn't taken me in out of kindness. She'd taken me in to make me disappear. Dr. Patel didn't sugarcoat it. "Mrs. Hartwell, you have chronic food poisoning. Your blood work shows bacterial infection from spoiled dairy, dangerously elevated toxin levels, malnutrition, and dehydration." She closed the chart. "These symptoms don't develop overnight. Has someone been feeding you expired or contaminated food?" The question hung in the sterile air. I could lie, protect Veronica, protect Michael's marriage, or I could tell the truth. "Yes, my daughter-in-law. For months." Dr. Patel's jaw tightened. "This is elder abuse. We're required to report this." Within an hour, a social worker named Sandra Chen sat beside my bed, kind eyes and sensible shoes that squeaked on the linoleum. "Eleanor, we can file a police report. Adult Protective Services can investigate. We can find you safe housing, assisted living where—" "My son doesn't know," I interrupted. "It's his wife. I don't want to destroy his marriage." Sandra leaned forward. "Mrs. Hartwell, you could have died. You nearly did. Another month of this and we'd be planning a funeral, not a discharge." I looked at my hands, thin, age-spotted IV tubing taped to translucent skin. "I need time to handle this my way." She studied me, then wrote something in her folder. "I'm noting you're declining immediate intervention, but if anything happens, you call me." She handed me her card. Day or night. After she left, alone with beeping monitors, the memory surfaced. Thomas, 3 days before his stroke, moving slowly through our bedroom. He'd pulled a manila envelope from his desk drawer. "Eleanor, this is for emergencies only. If something happens to me and you ever feel unsafe or powerless, open this. I've made sure you'll always have options." "You're being dramatic. Nothing's going to happen to you." His smile was sad. "Humor me. Put it somewhere safe. Promise you'll open it if you need it." I'd promised, then tucked it in my jewelry box under the pearls. When I moved in with Michael and Veronica, I'd packed the jewelry box without thinking. It was sitting on my dresser right now. Dr. Patel discharged me 3 days later. Veronica picked me up in her spotless white SUV, rushing to help me into the seat with theatrical concern. "Oh, Mom, you scared us so much." Her Chanel No. 5 filled the car. I cracked the window. Michael was actually home when we arrived, standing in the doorway looking uncomfortable. Mom, you have to be more careful about what you eat. The doctors think she might have taken something from the trash, Veronica added smoothly. You know how elderly people get confused. I watched my son nod, accepting this lie without question. I'm so sorry, I whispered, making my voice small. I don't remember, but maybe I did. It's okay, Mom. We understand. Michael kissed my forehead and retreated to his office. Veronica tucked me into bed, fluffed pillows, brought water. You rest. I'll bring dinner later. The next morning, I waited until her car left for yoga class. Michael had left for work at 7. The house was silent except for the refrigerator's hum and my heartbeat. My hands trembled as I opened the jewelry box. The envelope was there beneath the pearls, Thomas's handwriting on front. For Eleanor, emergency only. I sat on the bed and broke the seal. Inside, a letter, a small brass key, and a business card for Harrison and Associates Estate Planning. My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, I'm gone and something has gone wrong. I never told you the full extent of our finances because I wanted you to live without worry. Over 40 years, I invested carefully. We don't just have the house and my pension. We have a portfolio of rental properties, 8 buildings, including that apartment complex on Riverside Drive. We have stocks and bonds worth $2.3 million. We have the lake house in your name only. You are wealthy, my love. The safety deposit box at First National, Box 247, contains all the deeds and documents. This key will open it. Mr. Harrison has been my lawyer for 20 years. He knows everything and will help you. I kept this secret to protect you from people who might see dollar signs instead of the woman I love. I wanted Michael to love us for who we are, not what we have. Trust your instincts, Eleanor. If someone is treating you badly, it's not because you deserve it. It's because they don't know who you really are. Show them. All my love, always, Thomas. The letter blurred as tears filled my eyes. Not sadness, but something else. Something that felt like power flowing back. I walked to the dresser and looked at the wedding photo. Veronica in white silk, brilliant smile, her arm linked through mine. We look like family. What a performance. I set it face down. Veronica thought she was caring for a poor, dependent old woman whose only asset was a modest pension. She had no idea that one of those 8 properties was the building where her sister Rachel lived. She didn't know I could solve Michael's problems with a phone call. She wanted me dead or warehoused in a nursing home where I'd stop being inconvenient, where she could have my son and what she thought was my pension all to herself. Thomas's words echoed, "Show them." I picked up the business card and my cell phone. The one Veronica didn't know I'd kept hidden. It was time to call Mr. Harrison. I told Veronica I had a doctor's follow-up appointment on Tuesday. Instead, I took a cab to Harrison and Associates on 5th Street, a brick building with brass fixtures that spoke of old money and older secrets. My hands clutched Thomas's letter in my purse like a talisman. Mr. Harrison was exactly what I expected. 65, steel gray hair, sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. He stood when I entered, both hands extended. Mrs. Hartwell, Thomas told me to watch for this day. I only wish the circumstances were different. He'd already pulled my files. Across his mahogany desk, he laid out my life in numbers I'd never known existed. 8 rental properties generating $14,000 monthly. Investment accounts worth $2.3 million. The lake house appraised at $890,000. Life insurance payout of $500,000 I hadn't touched. Total net worth, $3.7 million. Your daughter-in-law has stolen approximately $8,000 from your pension over 6 months, he said, sliding bank statements toward me. But that's the least of it. He leaned back in his leather chair. You have 3 options. First, press charges immediately for elder abuse, theft, and fraud. Second, evict them from your property. I looked up sharply. My property? You still own the house you're living in. You rented it to them for $1 per year when you moved in. A legal arrangement that protects your asset while giving them residence. You can terminate that agreement with 30 days' notice. The irony was delicious. I was living in my own house as Veronica's prisoner. Third option, cut off all access to your accounts. Freeze everything. Demand full repayment. He tapped his pen against the desk. My recommendation? Strike hard and fast. She's poisoned you, Eleanor. This is attempted murder. No, Mr. Harrison, I want to do this differently. His eyebrows rose. I want her to reveal herself completely before I expose her. I want my son to see the truth with his own eyes, not hear it from lawyers and police reports. If I accuse her, she'll play victim. Michael will have to choose. But if he witnesses it himself, she could try to harm you again. That's why I need you to arrange something for me. 2 days later, a home healthcare technician installed a hidden camera in my bedroom smoke detector. Legal, Mr. Harrison assured me, since I owned the property. A private investigator named Marcus Chen began tailing Veronica. I played my part perfectly, weak, confused, apologetic. When Veronica brought me breakfast, yogurt that smelled like vinegar, toast with fuzzy edges, I thanked her sweetly. Then I scraped it into plastic bags I hid in my closet, photographing each item with my phone first. Evidence, dated and documented. Veronica grew bolder. "Here's your lunch, Mom." Gray hamburger meat on a stale bun. The meat had an iridescent sheen. I hesitated. "Veronica, this smells— what's wrong?" Her voice turned sharp. "Are you going to be ungrateful after everything we've done for you? Michael works himself to death to keep a roof over your head." I took a small bite, then palmed it in a napkin when she turned away. Portions shrank further. A single piece of bread for breakfast. Half a can of soup for dinner. "You're not very active," she said when I mentioned feeling hungry. "You don't need much food at your age?" She started helping with my room, cleaning, she said, though I caught her going through my dresser drawers, searching. Looking for what? Money? Valuables? Evidence of the wealth she didn't know existed. Marcus's weekly reports arrived like clockwork. Week 1. Veronica toured 3 nursing homes collecting brochures for memory care facilities. One director quoted $8,000 monthly. "That's more than her pension," Veronica had said. "Guess we'll need the cheapest option." Week 2. Lunch with friends at an expensive bistro, charged to my pension account. Marcus recorded her complaints. "I'm stuck playing nursemaid to Michael's mom. She's like having a 2-year-old who won't die." Week 3. Shopping spree at Nordstrom. A $3,000 Prada handbag. Spa day with hot stone massage. All on my money while I ate moldy bread. Week 4 brought the smoking gun. Marcus photographed Veronica meeting with an insurance agent, documents spread across a cafe table. When he retrieved copies through his contacts, the truth emerged in cold actuarial numbers. She'd increased Michael's life insurance from $250,000 to $1.5 million 6 months ago. Mr. Harrison's call came at midnight. "Eleanor, I think your son might be in danger too." The pattern was clear. Eliminate the mother-in-law first. Establish herself as the devoted wife caring for an aging relative. Then, what? An accident? Michael worked with heavy machinery sometimes, traveled on highways, so many ways a young husband could tragically die. Veronica wasn't just cruel, she was calculating. My neighbor Doris noticed me first. 73, sharp as a tack, she'd known me for 5 years before I moved. When she saw me shuffling to the mailbox, thin as paper, she appeared the next day with a casserole. Veronica intercepted at the door. "Oh, how thoughtful. But Mom's on a special diet, doctor's orders. I'll make sure she gets this." From my bedroom window, I watched Veronica carry that casserole straight to the garbage bin. Doris stood on the sidewalk, watching too. Our eyes met through the glass. She nodded slowly. After that, Doris started her evening walks past our house, always watching. I called Mr. Harrison. "It's time." We planned it carefully. Saturday afternoon, Michael would be home. Doris would arrive at exactly 2 p.m. with a borrowed book to return. My bedroom camera would be recording. Mr. Harrison would be on standby with documentation. And I would eat whatever Veronica served me for lunch. One last performance, one final poisoning, but this time with witnesses who could save me and finally make my son see the monster. Sleeping in his bed. By day, I was the frail widow who could barely lift a spoon. By afternoon, I was someone else entirely. Mornings, I shuffled to the bathroom, hunched and slow, while Veronica watched from the hallway. I picked at the moldy toast she served, hands trembling. The performance was flawless, but the moment her white SUV pulled out of the driveway, yoga at 10, lunch with friends at noon. I straightened my spine, grabbed my hidden purse, and took the rental car I'd parked 2 blocks away to Mr. Harrison's office. There, I was Eleanor Hartwell, property owner, investor, strategist. We reviewed financial documents, plotted legal maneuvers, studied Marcus's surveillance photos. Then, by 4 o'clock, I'd return, park the rental, and shuffle back through my front door just as the frail woman Veronica expected. Evenings, I documented everything: photos of expired food, voice recordings, notes with dates and times. Veronica grew bolder. She started leaving nursing home brochures on my nightstand. Just looking at options for when you need more care, Mom. Some of these places are really nice. The nice ones cost $12,000 monthly. The one with a corner turned down cost $200 and had a one-star review mentioning understaffed and neglect. One night I overheard her talking to Michael in their bedroom. "She's getting worse, honey. Last week she fell twice. And she's incontinent now. I've been changing sheets every morning." Complete lies. "I don't know how much longer I can do this." Michael's voice was tired. "I know it's hard on you. Maybe we should look at facilities." My son believed her without question, without checking, without asking me. That hurt worse than the poison. Then Veronica made her mistake. I'd planted an old checkbook in my drawer, bait, obvious enough for her snooping to find. It had my original address printed on the checks, the house I supposedly sold. She took it. That afternoon, while I was napping, I heard her on her laptop. Keys clicking, the whir of a printer. She'd looked up property records. When I emerged for dinner, her eyes were different, cold and sharp. "Eleanor." She didn't call me Mom anymore. "Why do property records show you still own your old house?" I blinked, playing confused. "What?" "No, I sold it. The money went to Thomas's funeral expenses." "Don't lie to me, you manipulative old woman." She crossed the kitchen in 3 strides. "I checked the records. You rented it out. Where's the money?" "I don't understand." She grabbed my arm, fingers digging into flesh. "You've been hiding assets while living off our charity? While I've been feeding you, cleaning up after you? Veronica, you're hurting me." She shoved me toward my bedroom, rifling through drawers, tearing through the closet. The camera hidden in the smoke detector captured everything. The doorbell rang. Veronica froze. Through the window, we both saw Doris on the front porch, holding a measuring cup. Veronica's transformation was instant. Her face smoothed, voice sweetened. She released my arm and opened the door. "Doris, what a surprise." "I'm so sorry to bother you, dear. I'm baking and realized I'm out of sugar. Could I borrow a cup?" "Of course." Veronica disappeared to the kitchen. Doris stepped inside and saw me standing in my bedroom doorway. Her eyes went to my arm, where Veronica's fingerprints were already darkening into bruises. "Eleanor, are you all right?" I met her gaze and gave the slightest shake of my head, then louder. "I'm fine, just confused. Veronica takes such good care of me." Doris understood. She took the sugar, thanked Veronica, and left. 30 minutes later, from her house, she called Adult Protective Services. Sandra Chen arrived the next morning unannounced. "I'm here for a welfare check on Eleanor Hartwell." Veronica's performance was Oscar-worthy. Concerned daughter-in-law, exhausted from caring for a difficult patient. She showed Sandra my room, cleaned that morning, fresh food in the mini fridge that had mysteriously appeared overnight. "Mrs. Hartwell, are you being cared for properly?" Sandra asked. I could end it now. Show her my arm, tell the truth. But Michael needed to see it himself. "I'm fine. My daughter-in-law is wonderful." Sandra left her card anyway. "Call me anytime." That Friday, Michael left for a week-long software conference in Seattle. I watched from my window as he loaded his suitcase into his car. He pulled Veronica aside. "Please be patient with Mom. I know she's difficult." Veronica smiled up at him. "Of course, honey, we'll be fine." His taillights disappeared around the corner. Veronica's smile vanished. She turned and looked up at my window. Even from that distance, I saw the promise in her eyes. The week that followed was calculated cruelty. Monday. She served only expired food openly now. "Eat it or starve. Your choice." Tuesday. Accidentally locked my bedroom door from the outside. I spent 4 hours trapped before she remembered. Wednesday. She stood in my doorway, arms crossed. "You're going to sign over that house or I'll handle this my way. Understand?" Thursday. She withheld my blood pressure medication. Can't find it anywhere. Strange. Friday, a nursing home director arrived, clipboard in hand. Veronica gave him a tour of Mom's room while I sat silent, documented as non-responsive and declining rapidly. Saturday, she shoved papers in front of me. Sign now. I signed with a shaky X. Legally invalid, Mr. Harrison had assured me, but Veronica didn't know that. Sunday, Michael's car pulled into the driveway. Veronica was instantly transformed, fluffing my pillows, bringing fresh water, smiling sweetly. Marcus's final reports arrived Monday morning. He'd recorded a phone call. Veronica to a friend. One way or another, the old bat is gone by Christmas. I've earned this house. Photos of her with another man, kissing in a parking garage. Financial records showing $45,000 in credit card debt. Designer clothes, jewelry, spa treatments. The life insurance increase on Michael. The pattern was clear, desperate for money, willing to do anything. Mr. Harrison's voice was grim on the phone. Eleanor, she's dangerous. We need to move now. Saturday, I said. One final dinner. Doris will be there. I'll invite her over. You'll be on standby with the police. The camera will be recording. I'd ordered a medical alert bracelet connected to a private ambulance service. One press of the button and help would arrive in minutes. I'll eat whatever she serves me. And this time, when I collapse, my son will finally see who he married. The trap was set. Saturday dinner began with the smell of rosemary chicken for some of us. Michael sat at the head of the table, grateful for a home-cooked meal after his conference. Doris had arrived at 6 with a bottle of wine, playing her role perfectly. Veronica had been forced to cook something presentable to maintain the illusion of the devoted daughter-in-law. She placed plates in front of Michael and Doris. Golden brown chicken breast, roasted vegetables glistening with olive oil, fresh salad with bright tomatoes. My plate landed with a harder thunk. The chicken was gray, edges dried and curled. The salad looked wilted, dressing separated and oily. Even from where I sat, I could smell something off. That sour, metallic tang I'd learned to recognize. Doris noticed immediately. Veronica, Eleanor's chicken looks different from ours? Veronica's smile didn't waver. Mom prefers hers well done. You know how elderly people worry about food safety. The irony of those words hung in the air like poison. I cut into the chicken. The meat had a rainbow sheen, the telltale sign of spoilage. The camera hidden in the smoke detector across the room captured everything. My plate, Veronica's tight smile, Michael obliviously eating. I took 3 bites, chewing slowly, letting the contaminated meat slide down my throat. Then I waited. 5 minutes later, the nausea hit. I didn't have to fake the sweat beading on my forehead or the way my hands trembled. My body recognized what was happening. It had been through this before. Mom, you okay? Michael looked up from his plate. I clutched my stomach, letting my face drain of color. The room tilted genuinely as the food poisoning took hold. Veronica's first reaction, caught for just a split second before she controlled it, was irritation, annoyance, not concern. Doris saw it too. Eleanor! Doris jumped from her chair. Michael, call 911. Michael's chair scraped back, phone already in his hand, panic flooding his face. Mom, what's wrong? Veronica stood slowly, reluctantly, as if being pulled by strings. I'm sure she's fine. She gets dramatic sometimes. I slumped forward. My hand found the medical alert bracelet under the table and pressed. 911, what's your emergency? The dispatcher's voice crackled through Michael's phone. Within minutes, I heard the sirens, my private ambulance service, already en route before the call. The paramedics rushed in. Different crew this time, but the same routine. Vitals, questions, equipment. What did she eat? Veronica's composure was cracking. With both Doris and Michael staring at her, she stammered, She ate the same thing we all did. She must have a stomach bug. Doris's voice cut through. No, I saw her plate. She had different chicken. Veronica's face flushed. She's old. She's confused. Maybe she took something from the garbage again. Michael froze. Again? What do you mean again? I watched through half-closed eyes as Veronica realized what she'd revealed, the pattern she'd accidentally confirmed. Her mouth opened, closed, no words coming. Ma'am, we need to transport her, the paramedic said. As they loaded me onto the gurney, I caught Doris's eye. She nodded once. Her testimony was ready. Dr. Patel's face hardened when she saw me wheeled into the ER. Mrs. Hartwell, this is the second time in 3 weeks. This time, she didn't address me first. She turned to Michael, who'd ridden in his car behind the ambulance. Your mother has chronic food poisoning. The tests from her last visit showed a pattern. Someone is feeding her contaminated food deliberately. Michael's face went pale. That's impossible. Veronica takes care of all her meals. Dr. Patel's pointed look said everything. Exactly. Veronica burst through the emergency room doors, breathless. How dare you accuse me? I've sacrificed everything for her. Do you know what I've given up to care for that woman? Then explain this. I pulled my phone from the pocket of my cardigan, the phone Michael didn't know I had. My hand shook as I pulled up the photo gallery. Michael, I need you to listen to me. Really listen. I showed him the pictures. Expired yogurt dated 3 months past. Moldy bread, gray meat with timestamps. Dozens of photos spanning weeks. Mom, maybe you're confused about the dates. Then explain these. I pulled up my sleeve. The bruises from Veronica's grip 2 days ago had bloomed into perfect finger marks, purple-black against my pale skin. Michael stared. Veronica, how did this happen? She falls. She bruises easily. Veronica's voice climbed higher. This is elder paranoia. She's senile. No, she's not. Everyone turned. Doris stood in the doorway, still wearing her dinner cardigan. Michael, I've been watching. Your mother isn't confused. She described the casserole thrown in the trash, the arguments she'd overheard, how I'd gone from healthy to skeletal in 8 months. I called Adult Protective Services 2 weeks ago. I tried to tell you, but you're never home. Michael's face crumbled. Why didn't anyone... The officer arrived before he could finish. Dr. Patel had filed the mandatory elder abuse report. Officer Chen introduced himself, pulled out a notepad. Mrs. Hartwell, I need to take your statement. Veronica's panic exploded. This is ridiculous. I'm the victim here. Do you know what it's like caring for an ungrateful old woman who... Ma'am. Officer Chen's voice was flat. There are medical records showing a pattern of food poisoning. There are photographs. We'll need you to come to the station. Michael! Veronica grabbed his arm. Are you going to let them do this to me? I'm your wife. Michael pulled away, his voice barely a whisper. I need to understand what's happening. I asked everyone to leave except Michael. Even the nurse stepped out. Son, there's something you don't know about your father's estate. I told him everything. The rental, properties, the investments, the $3.7 million, the lake house in my name. I watched his face cycle through shock, confusion, and finally, devastating comprehension. You're rich. Why are you living with us? Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to see if I was loved or just useful. Your father warned me to be careful who I trusted with this information. I pulled Thomas's letter from my purse and handed it to him. Michael read it twice, hands shaking. When he looked up, understanding had replaced confusion in his eyes. She knew, or she suspected. That's why she... He couldn't finish. Officer Chen returned with backup and a folder from Mr. Harrison. Bank records, surveillance photos, recorded phone calls. Veronica Hartwell, you're under arrest for elder abuse, theft, fraud, and assault. The handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Veronica's composure shattered completely. She's been playing us. She has millions. She's the manipulative one. She let me think she was poor. Michael stood silent, frozen, as his wife was led through the emergency room. At the doorway, she turned back, voice rising to a scream. Michael, you're choosing her over me. She's going to die soon anyway. The automatic doors closed behind her. That night, alone in my hospital room, Michael sat in the visitor's chair and broke down. Mom, I'm so sorry. How did I not see? I reached for his hand. She was very good at hiding it, and you wanted to believe the best of her. What happens now? I squeezed his fingers. Now we figure out who you really are, and what our relationship really means. For the first time in 10 months, my son stayed with me through the night. I refused to return to that house, even though I owned it. 2 weeks post-discharge, I was living in a hotel suite downtown, the kind with a kitchenette and a view of the river. Michael visited every day, arriving with Tupperware containers of food he'd cooked himself. He'd check every expiration date in front of me, narrating like a nervous cooking show host. Chicken breast, sell by date 3 days from now, broccoli, bought fresh this morning. It broke my heart and healed it simultaneously. Veronica was out on bail, staying with her sister Rachel in Unit 4B of the Riverside Apartments, one of my 8 rental properties. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was living in a building I owned while awaiting trial for trying to kill me. A restraining order kept her 500 feet away. It didn't stop her from trying. Mr. Harrison's office smelled like leather and old law books. He'd arranged this meeting carefully. Michael needed to understand the full scope of what his father had built. The documents covered the conference table like evidence at a crime scene. 8 rental properties, Mr. Harrison said, sliding the deeds toward Michael. Including the house you've been living in. Your mother owns it. She rented it to you and Veronica for $1 annually. Michael's hands trembled as he picked up each deed. The Riverside Complex, the duplex on Maple Street, He stopped. This is where Veronica and I live. Correct. Your mother could have evicted you both at any time. $3.7 million in investments, Mr. Harrison continued. The lake house your father bought anonymously, worth $800,000. Life insurance, dividend income. Your father spent 40 years building this, very carefully, very quietly. Michael looked at me, confusion and hurt warring in his expression. You and Dad were millionaires and you lived so modestly? We valued people, not things. My voice came out sharper than intended. I thought I taught you that. He flinched. The hit landed. That night, in my hotel suite, Michael sat on the couch and fell apart. I married her partly for her ambition, her drive for success. She wanted the big house, the nice cars, the life I thought I was supposed to want. He rubbed his face. When did I become so materialistic? When did I stop caring about what actually matters? Your father tried to warn you about her, didn't he? Michael nodded slowly. At the engagement party, Dad pulled me aside, said something felt off about her, that she asked too many questions about money, about what you guys were leaving me. He laughed bitterly. I told him he was being paranoid, that he didn't understand modern relationships. He saw through her from the beginning. I chose her over both of you, over his wisdom, over your well-being. Michael's voice cracked. What kind of son does that make me? The kind who can still choose differently now. Veronica wasn't going quietly. She violated the restraining order 3 times. That first week, texts to Michael's phone, emails, a handwritten letter slipped under his apartment door. Each violation was documented, each one tightening the legal noose. She hired an expensive lawyer with credit cards that were already maxed out. Posted on social media, "My husband's manipulative mother is trying to destroy our marriage because she can't stand to see him happy, praying for truth to prevail." Michael's phone rang constantly. Mutual friends, Veronica's family, even his own colleagues calling to say they'd seen the posts, that maybe he should reconsider, that all marriages go through rough patches. They think I'm the bad guy, he said, showing me the messages. They think you're some vindictive rich woman who never liked Veronica. Does it matter what they think? He considered this. No, it doesn't. I needed to know something. Michael, if I had died and you'd inherited everything, what would you have done? He was quiet for a long time. The hotel room's air conditioning hummed. 6 months ago? His voice was barely above a whisper. I probably would have paid off our debts, bought Veronica the life she wanted, the big house, the luxury cars, the country club membership she kept hinting about. And now? Now I realize that life would have been empty, built on your death, built on lies. He met my eyes. She would have spent your money, Dad's legacy, on handbags while you were in the ground. The truth of it hung between us. The divorce was vicious. Veronica contested everything, her new lawyer arguing she deserved half of Michael's potential inheritance as marital property. She'd cared for his elderly mother, the claim stated, and deserved compensation for her time and emotional labor. Mr. Harrison dismantled her in court. He presented the camera footage. Veronica grabbing my arm, bruising me, screaming about hidden assets, the expired food, the threats. Michael watched from the gallery, his face gray. Veronica's lawyer watched the footage, conferred with his client, and withdrew from the case by end of business. The DA was pushing for trial. Elder abuse, theft, assault, fraud. 3 to 7 years if convicted on all counts. Veronica's public defender offered a plea. 18 months, restitution, probation. What do you want, Mom? Michael asked. I want her to understand that people aren't disposable. Her new lawyer requested a meeting. Veronica wanted to apologize, hoping I'd support the plea deal. Against everyone's advice, I agreed. We sat across from each other in a windowless conference room. Veronica looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced with a Target blazer. But her eyes still held that calculating gleam. I'm sorry you feel hurt by my actions, she said, words clearly rehearsed. I was stressed and overwhelmed caring for you. I made mistakes. A non-apology apology. Textbook manipulation. You're not sorry you did it, I said quietly. You're sorry you got caught. Her mask cracked. You played me. You let me think you were weak, that you were poor. I was weak, Veronica. Weak from the poison you fed me. You almost killed me. You could have stopped it any time. You had millions. And you could have not tried to murder me for a pension check. The meeting ended. I rejected the plea deal. Michael quit his job the following week. It kept me away from what mattered, he explained, packing up his office. I'm going to find something with normal hours, something that lets me actually live. He moved out of my house into a modest one-bedroom apartment across town. When I offered to let him stay, he shook his head. I need to make it on my own, like you and Dad did. I need to remember who I was supposed to be. I decided to sell the house where I'd been poisoned. The money would go to an elder abuse prevention charity. Michael supported it completely. You're choosing integrity over comfort, I told him. I'm choosing to finally become the son you raised. For the first time in a year, I saw Thomas in his face. Not in features, but in character. The trial was set for 6 weeks out, and my son was finally on the right side of it. 6 months after my second poisoning, I sat in a courtroom and watched my daughter-in-law's face as the prosecution played the video of her screaming at me. The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecution presented everything. Dr. Patel's medical reports showing chronic food poisoning, the camera footage of Veronica grabbing my arm and calling me a manipulative old woman, bank records proving she'd stolen $8,000 from my pension, photographs of the expired food she'd served me with, dates clearly visible. Veronica's public defender argued she'd done her best under difficult circumstances, that I was a challenging patient, that I had dementia and couldn't be trusted to remember events accurately. Then I took the stand. I testified for 2 hours. Calm, clear, detailed. I walked the jury through every expired yogurt, every moldy piece of bread, every threat Veronica had made. I showed them the photos on my phone, the bruises on my arm, the diary I'd kept with dates and times. May I read an entry? I asked the prosecutor. Please do. I opened to October 14th. Today, Veronica served me chicken that smelled like chemicals. When I hesitated, she said, "Eat it or starve." I photographed it after she left. Expiration date, September 2nd. 6 weeks expired. I am not confused. I am not imagining this. I am being poisoned. The jury looked at Veronica. She stared at her hands. After 4 hours of deliberation, they returned. Guilty on all counts: elder abuse, theft, assault. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in prison, $50,000 in restitution, and a permanent restraining order. Veronica's composure shattered. This isn't fair. She ruined my life. She had millions and let me think she was poor. She manipulated everyone. Judge Morrison removed her glasses. No, ma'am. You attempted to ruin hers by slowly poisoning her, and you failed. The bailiff led her away. Michael sat in the gallery watching his ex-wife disappear through the side door. No tears, just quiet acceptance. Outside the courthouse, he found me on the steps. Justice was served, he said. Justice isn't about punishment, Michael. It's about protection. I took his arm. Now we protect others. The lake house sat 2 hours north, surrounded by pine trees and overlooking water so blue it hurt to look at. Thomas had bought it for our 30th anniversary, planning to surprise me with a summer reveal. He died before he could. Michael and I walked through it together for the first time since the funeral. His father's fishing rod still leaned in the corner. Photo albums lined the shelves. Our wedding, Michael's childhood, family vacations. Thomas's reading chair sat by the window. his bookmark still holding a place in a Tom Clancy novel he'd never finish. Michael sank into that chair and broke down. I forgot what really mattered. I forgot everything you and Dad taught me. I knelt beside him. But you remembered. That's what counts. The Thomas Hartwell Elder Safety Fund, launched 3 months after the trial. I converted all 8 rental properties into affordable housing for elderly people on fixed incomes. People like who Veronica had thought I was. People who were actually vulnerable, actually alone, actually in need. Rent was set at 30% of income. Each unit came with weekly check-ins, access to legal advocacy, and a community support network. Can I help? Michael asked when I announced the plan. Not with money, with work. Real work. He became the foundation's property manager. Learned plumbing, electrical work, tenant relations. He moved into a modest apartment in the Riverside building, the same building where Veronica's sister had lived, though Rachel had quietly moved out. Every Sunday we had dinner at the lake house. Michael would arrive with groceries, showing me each item like a ritual. Milk, expiration date June 10th. Chicken, sell by June 8th. Bread, baked fresh this morning. We'd laugh about it now. Dark humor, but healing. Doris became the foundation's community liaison. Her nosiness, which had saved my life, became her greatest asset. She knew every resident, watched for warning signs, organized monthly potlucks where I'd attend and tell my story. If it can happen to someone like Eleanor, it can happen to anyone, she'd say. Stay vigilant, stay connected. We documented 3 cases of potential elder abuse in the first year and intervened before serious harm occurred. The letter arrived 8 months into Veronica's sentence. Her handwriting was smaller than I remembered, less confident. Mrs. Hartwell, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I finally understand what I did. I saw you as an obstacle, not a person. As a problem to solve, not a human being with feelings and value. Prison gave me time to see what I became. Someone who could poison an elderly woman for money. Someone who valued designer handbags over human life. I'm sorry, truly sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I hurt you. Veronica, I didn't write back, but I didn't hold hatred either. I hope prison teaches her what freedom taught me, I told Michael. That value isn't in what you take, but what you give. 1 year after my first collapse, Michael and I stood at Thomas's grave. The foundation had housed 47 elderly residents. Michael had found purpose. I had found strength I didn't know I possessed. Dad, I finally understand what you tried to teach me, Michael said, voice thick. I'm sorry it took so long. I placed fresh flowers on the headstone. He knows, son. He knows. Back at the lake house that evening, I sat on the porch with chamomile tea, watching the sun set over water that looked like molten gold. Veronica thought expired food would make me expire. Instead, it gave me new life. She thought my weakness was my age, my vulnerability, my grief. She didn't realize my strength was my patience, and Thomas's love reaching beyond death to protect me. He'd left me money, yes, but he'd left me something more valuable. The wisdom to know the difference between being helped and being harmed. Michael's car pulled up the gravel drive. He emerged with grocery bags, climbed the porch steps. Chicken breasts, sell by June 15th. Tomatoes fresh from the farmer's market. Milk, he showed me the jug, June 12th. We cooked together in Thomas's kitchen, checking dates, chopping vegetables, laughing at jokes only we understood. His photo sat on the mantel watching over us. Mom, what's the difference between revenge and justice? Michael asked as we sat down to eat. Revenge destroys, justice rebuilds. I looked at my son across the table, healthy food, fresh ingredients, surrounded by love. We're rebuilding. My daughter-in-law thought she could feed me poison and get away with it. She thought I was disposable, but the only thing that expired was her plan. If you've experienced elder abuse, if someone is treating you as less than human, remember, you are never too old to fight back. You are never too weak to be strong, and you are never, ever disposable. Did this story resonate with you? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is a fictional story with an important message. Support this channel with super thanks to bring more stories that matter. Subscribe for more true-to-life narratives about justice, family, and resilience.